Are you a brand new podcaster, hoping to share what you're passionate about to whoever's willing to listen, but you aren't sure where to start? Navigating the logistics of your podcast can be confusing, from tracking growth to getting your podcast on the biggest platforms like Apple and Spotify. That's why I use Captivate. Captivate is a podcast publishing site that's user-friendly and offers everything you need to fulfill your podcast's full potential. They'll help you publish your podcast to all of the most popular platforms, as well as help you track your growth through daily, weekly, 28, and 90-day download numbers, as well as the averages, so you can see where your podcast might be flourishing or floundering. What's more, they'll help you with promotion and advertising. They offer free courses on how to start and run the perfect podcast, and they even throw in a free website with your subscription, completely customizable to fit your podcast's personality. You can sign up now starting at $19 a month, and you'll even get a free 7-day trial so you can decide whether or not it's right for you. Sign up today at thezoologist.net/captivate, and what's more, you'll be supporting my show. Captivate truly is a podcaster's best friend. Hello and welcome to the first episode of the Zoologist Podcast. I am your host, Jacob Munger. The Zoologist is a show dedicated to teaching everyone, from the avid animal lover to the casual commuter, something new, something you didn't already know about your favorite animals, or maybe giving you more context and information about something you did already know. Either way, I hope you enjoy the show. Let's get ready to get wild. For our very first episode, we'll be learning a little bit about dolphins, which I think is appropriate. Everybody loves dolphins, right? And really, what's not to love? They're cute, they're fun, and they're smart. Everyone knows how smart dolphins are, but just how smart are they really? And how do we know that they're so smart? Well, today we'll be picking the brain, so to speak, of one of the brightest animals on the planet. Let's dive in. You're all having a wonderful day wherever you are in the world. Whenever you're listening to this, welcome, and thank you so much for hopping on. Thank you for joining me for the first episode of The Zoologist. I'll insert some little celebration noises right now. You might be wondering how this podcast got its name, where The Zoologist comes from. Well, a zoologist, according to Google, is, quote, an expert in or student of the behavior, physiology, classification, and distribution of animals. So this is a name I've had in mind for a while now, partly because it sounds cool, but also because I feel like it fits so well for this kind of podcast, where we will all be learning about animal behavior, physiology, classification, and distribution. On this show, we are all students. Inevitably, I feel like someone's going to ask me, well, who exactly is the zoologist? Theoretically, I guess it's supposed to be me, but I consider it to be the listener as well. That's you. In this context, we are all zoologists. This is a big deal for me because I've had a passion for animals for as long as I can remember. Just one little story to kind of give you an idea of how long I've been interested in animals. When I was about 5 years old, my family traveled to Denver to visit my aunt and her family. And while they were over in Denver, we decided to go to the zoo and see what we could see over there. And while we were visiting the zoo, we were walking along and we saw an animal, and no one knew what animal it was. The exhibit sign was across the way. We hadn't reached it yet. No one could see it. So no one could tell which animal this was. Well, 5-year-old me takes one look at this animal and is like, oh yeah, that's an okapi. And it's funny about this is my aunt. I remember my aunt was like, yeah, no way. There's no way he could know that. Sure enough, we got over to the sign and it was an okapi. Now, looking back, I can tell you exactly how I knew what that was. There was like a National Geographic show that I used to watch for kids. And I don't remember much from it, but I do remember one scene very vividly. There's probably this 5 or 10 minute clip where it showed an okapi and it just kind of discussed what it was, where it lives. You know, besides that, I played an inordinate amount of Zoo Tycoon as a child, so that probably played a part as well. But yeah, there you go. Years and years it's been. Still obsessed with animals. Maybe I'll grow out of it someday, but not this day. I don't know. Maybe I'll do an episode about okapis someday as a tribute to my past. Anyway, for today's show, today's first episode, I wanted to talk about an animal that is universally beloved, and an attribute about this animal that is very well known. I don't think I've ever met anyone who hates dolphins. I also don't think I've ever met anyone who doesn't know or bring up the fact that dolphins are super smart. I definitely think pop culture, as well as SeaWorld, maybe other marine parks, have certainly done a lot to promote this, but unlike a lot of other common tropes or cultural ideas about animals, this one is true. It's very true, and there is ample evidence to show just how smart dolphins are. From their brain structure to their behavior, they really are one of the most intelligent animals on the planet, and we'll dive into that. Now, before we go on, a quick note that I want to make. All of the research and scientific data that is used in this episode is not my own. So this comes from several different sources, several different online articles, different scientists who have actually dug through and done the research for this. I'll be posting the links in the description to everything that I looked at afterwards, so you can go through and dig a little deeper into this if you'd like. There's a lot to cover on this topic, not enough to fit into an episode of a podcast. So if you'd like to learn a little bit more, if you find this interesting, I highly recommend you go through and do a little bit of digging yourself. Now, to start, when I'm talking about dolphins, I'm obviously talking about a specific group of animals. There are 42 currently living species that are called dolphins. They are classified under the infraorder Cetacea. So this includes whales, dolphins, and porpoises. And the largest family of dolphins is the oceanic dolphins. It's about 38 of those 42 species come from the oceanic dolphins. And this includes species we all know and love. The most famous are probably the bottlenose dolphin and the killer whale, which, despite its name, is actually a dolphin. In addition to these oceanic dolphins, the other 4 species are all river dolphins. So it should be noted, the dolphins' relatives, porpoises and whales, are also highly intelligent, but we'll be focusing specifically on dolphins today. They can be found in oceans all around the world. They're characterized by their distinct head shape. They often have a pronounced beak, although that's not always the case if you've seen a killer whale. They also have a curved dorsal fin. They can also be characterized by the shape of their teeth. The shape of their teeth is different from that of the porpoise. Dolphins are also usually larger than their close relatives, the porpoise, and they have a sleeker body shape. So these are the animals that we are specifically focusing on today. I could probably do a whole nother episode about porpoises and whales, but I'm sure a lot of the facts we're going to go over today probably apply to porpoises and whales as well. In any case, any discussion about dolphin intelligence has to start with the brain. Whales, dolphins, porpoises all have exceptionally large brains. And when you consider the ratio of body mass to brain size, dolphins are only beat out by human beings. So this ratio, it's what's known as the encephalization quotient in science, EQ for short. So human beings have the largest EQ of any animal at about 7.1. To just give you an idea of what this means, basically, our brains are 7.1 times larger than you would expect to find in an animal our size. That is by far and away the largest of any animal species. But coming in at second are several different species of dolphin. Their EQ ranges between about 4 and 5, which is by far and away the second most of any animal. I think the next largest was something like 2, although I could be wrong about that. Now, brain size doesn't necessarily prove that a species is intelligent. There are people walking around, I think, that are examples of this. But it is significant because a large brain requires a lot from the metabolism of an animal. It takes a lot of nutrients, it takes a lot of energy, it's a lot of work to take care of. So if it's not doing its job really well, it can become something of a disadvantage. But believe me when I say that a dolphin's brain does its job extremely well. When you look at the structure of a dolphin's brain, there's evidence all around of just how smart dolphins are. And what's really cool is that when you turn around and watch their behavior and the lives that they lead, there are obvious connections, there are obvious reasons for this intelligence. It plays an important role in their survival and in their day-to-day lives. The ancestors of dolphins first began to evolve these large brains about 35 million years ago, and there are 2 reasons why scientists think they did: echolocation and socialization, the social lives that they began to live. Now, starting with echolocation, I want to point out that there is an entire area in a dolphin's brain that we don't have. It is dedicated solely to echolocation. You've probably heard of echolocation before. If you don't know what it is, basically an animal will make a sound. The sound waves will bounce off of surrounding objects and then echo back to the animal, which gives it an idea of what might be close by, how far away something might be, if there's any predators in the area. Dolphins aren't the only ones to use echolocation. Bats also use this process. Some whale species do as well, I believe. For dolphins, it's used to sense prey or approaching danger, And it's also used to navigate through murky waters. It is an incredible evolutionary tool that allows the dolphin to work well within its environment, and gain greater knowledge of its surroundings, especially when you consider that sound waves move through water faster than light does. So a tool like this is much more useful than eyesight, advanced eyesight, I guess. In fact, this is such a huge advantage for dolphins that the U.S. Navy has actually trained bottlenose dolphins to search out mines and to apprehend potential threats. And apparently dolphins have also been trained and used by the Russian Navy as well. This is what it says on the Naval Information Warfare Center, or the NIWC website. It says, quote, "Dolphins naturally possess the most sophisticated sonar known to science. Mines and other potentially dangerous objects on the ocean floor that are difficult to detect with electronic sonar, especially in coastal shallows or cluttered harbors, are easily found by the dolphins. Someday it may be possible to complete these missions with underwater drones, but for now technology is no match for the animals." I would say that this says a lot about just how much dolphins are capable of, that they're being trained by the Navy to assist in military operations. This is something I want to dive deeper into because it's absolutely insane that the Navy is using dolphins. Now, I probably won't have time today, but let me know afterwards if you'd like to hear an episode about this. This might be something that I do an episode about in the future. There's just so much to unpack there. The fact that the Navy is using dolphins to complete military operations. Now, moving on, socialization. It's pretty common knowledge that dolphins are highly social animals. They live in family groups called pods, but what's really interesting is that these pods, they're not rigid or closed. They're not exclusive. Dolphins can and often do move freely between different pods throughout their lives within a given area. This means that they're communicating with, coordinating with, bonding with many different dolphins throughout their lives. This kind of complex social structure requires quite a bit of brains, as you would imagine, and dolphins have evolved and developed some extreme social skills to help them in this department. For one thing, dolphins have a very complex limbic system, the part of the brain responsible for processing emotions. Their limbic system actually appears to be even more complex than ours, which is fascinating. What's more, dolphin brains have also been found to contain spindle neurons, which are also called Van Economo neurons. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. In humans and apes, these have been linked to emotions, social cognition, and even theory of mind. This is the ability to sense what others are thinking. They're also associated with advanced abilities such as recognizing, remembering, reasoning, communicating, perceiving, adapting, problem solving, and understanding. That's a lot. It seemed to me that this tells us that dolphins do have and feel emotions. Certainly, there's ample evidence of that. But not only that, it shows us that dolphins may even be able to empathize and exhibit altruistic behavior. And there are instances on record of dolphins exhibiting altruistic behavior, such as helping injured animals and stranded divers reach the ocean surface to breathe. I was actually looking for a story about dolphins saving people, and there are just so many out there, I didn't know which one to choose from. They're all pretty similar to each other. A group of swimmers or someone in the water is injured or threatened by a shark, and what will happen is a group of dolphins will come to their aid, circle around them, scare off the shark, etc., etc. Scientists don't know for sure why dolphins do this. There's a few theories that have been proposed to explain this behavior, but I mean, how do you explain this? How do you just explain this away? It's very, very difficult, and it is definitely noteworthy. There's just no discernible benefit for the dolphins in these situations. You do have to ask yourself, are they just doing this for the sake of helping another animal, for helping out human beings? Really fascinating stuff. Okay, well, I think we've already unpacked a lot just to start off. I'm going to take a quick break, and we'll be back in a little bit, back in a few seconds. Welcome back as we continue our discussion about dolphin intelligence. Already we've gone through so much, I feel like. as we continue talking about dolphin empathy and altruism and emotion, another thing that all these findings seem to suggest is the possibility of self-awareness. There's the idea that dolphins are capable of seeing outside of themselves. There is one way that scientists use to test self-awareness, and it's pretty simple. You've probably heard of it before. It's called looking in a mirror. Most animals don't recognize themselves in a mirror, but dolphins can. When researchers put a mirror in a tank with dolphins and then put a mark on their bodies to see if the dolphins would recognize their reflection, they did. The dolphins were observed swimming by the mirror several times, apparently to look at this mark. It's a significant find because, again, most animals can't do this. It's yet another tick towards dolphin intelligence, the fact that they are capable of self-awareness. That's pretty scary to think about, honestly. And it really gives you makes you think twice about some of those marine park shows and those SeaWorld shows, and they've been putting on for years and years. But what can you do? Well, anyway, the lives that dolphins lead, again, probably have a lot to do with all of this. I'd imagine that interacting and having to coordinate with other dolphins in order to survive would probably require them to be able to bond effectively, communicate effectively with other dolphins. You have to have that ability to emotionally attach yourself to other dolphins and really learn from one another. And speaking of communication, dolphins are very good at communicating with each other. The way that dolphins communicate with one another is absolutely amazing. They have an elaborate system of clicks and whistles that they use to communicate. I think I saw somewhere that it was referred to as like a language. Very, very complex communication system. And what's more is that each dolphin will develop its own signature whistle, which seems to function almost like a name. So these dolphins will create these unique whistles, and when another dolphin mimics this unique whistle, that dolphin will respond. So basically, dolphins are out here giving themselves names, and other dolphins are using them. What's more, dolphins can retain memory of the signature whistles of other dolphins for up to 2 decades. This is the longest social memory of any non-human species on record. And it's thought that this might even last longer, this memory of other dolphins' names, I guess. It might last even longer than facial recognition in humans because faces change and these whistles don't. And beyond just social intelligence, dolphins are incredible problem solvers. They have incredible learning capabilities as well. Consider this. One definition of the word intelligence is the ability to learn and apply knowledge. There's a mountain of evidence to show that dolphins possess these abilities. And it's not just the ability to learn tricks or learn things that humans are trying to teach them. These animals learn from each other as well. We see this in their brain structure. Dolphins have a very complex neocortex, which is associated with problem solving, self-awareness, and other traits that are usually associated with human intelligence. Here's a few facts. Dolphins have the ability to learn and comprehend entire sentences. One example I saw was put the ball through the hoop. You can teach a dolphin that phrase and they'll understand it. But what's really incredible is that they can understand syntax as well. Going back to that previous example, they understand the difference between put the ball through the hoop and put the hoop through the ball. Dolphins can be taught to use an underwater keyboard to request toys to play with. Someone needs to let Amazon know about that one. Dolphins have been observed using tools to find food. Off the coast of Australia, dolphins occasionally use sponges to cover up their beaks while digging through sand looking for fish, likely to protect their snouts from spines, stingrays, or anything else that might cause injury. Dolphins have an incredible ability to pass on information to other dolphins. Again, you would expect this with an animal that goes from pod to pod throughout their lives, is constantly interacting and working with other dolphins. But there are some really cool examples of just how capable they are of teaching each other. One story I read about was about a dolphin named Billy. Apparently, she was rescued from a sea loch back in the 80s and rehabilitated for 3 weeks in a captive facility. When she was returned to the wild, scientists observed her, or researchers observed her tail walking. This is a trick taught to captive dolphins, and they receive rewards for doing it. It's something you've probably seen one time at a SeaWorld dolphin show. Not only was she tail walking, however, she was teaching other dolphins how to do it as well, apparently just for kicks and giggles, just for the heck of it. So, And speaking of doing things just for the heck of it, one way that dolphins show off their extraordinary intelligence is through play. Dolphins play all the time, for no other discernible reason than just for fun. They'll swim behind boats to ride the bow waves, they'll play with seaweed or their objects, they even play catch with one another. They play catch with one another, that's pretty cool. There's a reason you might have heard about how playful dolphins are. They love to play, and their love for play is almost unrivaled among animal species. Besides probably human beings, honestly, and primates. As far as I'm aware, these are not things that most animals can do. The problem-solving skills of dolphins are truly amazing. And again, this probably links back to how they live in the wild. Dolphins use a wide array of hunting techniques to catch their food, an example of their incredible ability to solve problems. When dolphins hunt in pods, they'll often coordinate their efforts in extraordinary ways. For example, when hunting a seal on an ice floe, killer whales swim in unison to create a wave that pushes the seal into the water. Imagine back when you would go back and forth in the tub to create waves. Maybe you still do this, I don't know. You go back and forth in the tub to create waves. The momentum would create a wave that floods your bathroom floor. It's the same concept. Orca whales, they swim in unison to create momentum and push the seal off of the ice floe with the wave that results from this coordinated effort. There's another technique that dolphins use when they're hunting schools of fish out in the open ocean. What they'll do is these pods will encircle the fish into a tighter and tighter group, and then they each take turns charging at the group in order to feed. And then one technique that I personally found really interesting is it's called drivers and blockers. They have a name for it. It's like something out of a playbook. These dolphins, what they'll do is some of the dolphins will smack the surface of the water with their tail flukes and herd fish into a circle, and then others will stay close together to block the fish and prevent them from escaping. This one's cool because it's an example of how different dolphins take different roles in the hunt. And then another technique that's really cool is that dolphins will actually hydroplane across shallow waters to catch prey. They'll swim really fast, and they'll get up to speed and then almost skate across shallow water to catch whatever it is they're hunting. So yeah, pretty cool stuff. I'm sure there's probably dozens more, probably not, if not hundreds of more techniques that dolphins use to catch their prey. I know there's a few more that come to mind. I don't want to risk describing them in case I butcher how they actually go. But it's remarkable to look at all of these ways that dolphins search for and catch their food, just how much it puts their intelligence on display. So it takes a very, very smart animal to come up with hunting techniques like this. So yeah, very cool stuff. Well, hopefully this gives you a little better idea of just how smart dolphins are. There's still a lot of research still needs to be done on this topic. Apparently there's still relatively little scientific data, but based on what we do have, and based on what we do know, dolphins are really smart, be it in the wild or at SeaWorld. Just remember, with the right training, a dolphin could probably outpace you in a calculus test. It could definitely outpace me. Thank you so much for listening to today's show. I hope you enjoyed it. If you'd like to learn more about dolphins and their massive brains, I'll be posting the links in the description to all the articles I found about this topic. There is still so much stuff you could go through, so much to learn. So if you'd like to dive deeper, go ahead and look through those. I highly, highly recommend it. It is fascinating stuff, and I couldn't even cover half of what I read. It is absolutely amazing stuff. I'll be releasing new episodes of The Zoologist every Tuesday morning at 5 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, just in time for your morning commutes. Keep an eye out for those and be prepared to learn more about the amazing creatures that inhabit our planet. If there's an animal you'd like to learn more about, or a question you'd like answered specifically regarding animals, reach out to me and I may give you a shout out on one of my episodes. Also, if you have any suggestions for me, if anything I could do better, anything I could improve, any way the show could improve, reach out and let me know. Thank you all so much and have a wild day.